Awesome. Cool. It says we're live unless it's lying to us. Um, Welcome, everybody. I'm really excited for this week's conversation. As you know, I interview lots of amazing people at different points in their journey in order to help you, right? Because we're all at different points and there's different contexts, there's different ways to look at things. And so my main intention is to help you. And we have someone really special today. We have Ashley, and I'm going to let her introduce herself. Um, and we'll see how long this goes. Ashley was sharing that her cats are in the room, and you never know, they might jump up and crash everything. But Ashley, did you know they have you seen the cat keyboards where they have these little keyboards for cats so they don't use
No,
your keyboard?
that is amazing. No. And what's funny is uh, you can't see it now, but I actually have an iMac in front of me and I just haven't actually taken the time to set it up. So there's like a keyboard that my cats use next to me, and then there's
Yeah.
mine. But
Oh, that's
I'd way
awesome.
rather like a fake keyboard than them jumping on an Apple one.
Yeah, they have mini laptops too. Perfect. So I'll let you introduce yourself and just who you are, what you do, and then we'll dive into the topic of conversation.
Sounds good. So I'm Ashley. Hello, everybody. I am a social media manager and content creator. Way back when James first met me, I was actually a virtual assistant, and I've kind of shifted roles a little bit, slowly kind of diving into websites and stuff like that. But for now, social media. I've been doing this for going on 5 years now, which is really hard to believe. And I have been full time with it now for three.
Awesome.
So
Awesome. I love it. And if someone is interested in finding out more about what you do or your services, do you have a site or anything you direct them to?
yeah, there's a couple ways to look me up. There's always Instagram, the good old Instagram. That's at thecairecreative.com. And then it's the .com, the Caira Creative. And then for my website, it's thecairecreative.com. So it's just my last name and then creative.
Cool, cool, perfect. So I think this will actually be a really good episode for people because I think anytime, I don't know about you, but whenever I was in a job and wanting to leave, it felt like the choice was either to make this giant leap or there were people saying that I needed to save up 6 months to a year's worth of savings, which, well, hint, I never did because that felt impossible because otherwise I probably would have liked my job a little more. Um, and yeah, I think just sharing your journey and going over that will be really helpful for people, whether they're in the 9 to 5 and like how to set themselves up for that, or to understand, what happens after you do take the leap, or how did you make the transition. And so there's all these little nuances in there that I'm excited to go over. Um, and which is cool because before we got on here, you were talking about how on your lunch breaks from work, right? Like you would go out to the car and we would meet over Zoom and get some work done as you were like figuring out how to, leave the job and also balance entrepreneurship. So I'm just going to let you open up your story before I tell a whole story because I don't think that's what people are here for. They're here for you. Yeah, why don't you start from the beginning and just like how everything came to be?
Yeah. So I am originally from Massachusetts, and up there, I actually worked a 9 to 5 that I really loved, and I did social media management for them, which I had never done before. They're like, "Hey, do you want to try this?" Sure, why not? I loved it, and I made the leap to move to Florida instead, and so I left them. And when I was here, there was a few jobs that I worked, and the reality of it is, and anybody from around here knows it, you don't make a ton of money, and hourly,
Mhm.
you really don't. And for me, it was kind of going back and forth. My boyfriend's a real estate agent. All of our friends, for the most part, are entrepreneurs. And they finally were like, "What are you doing? You hate your job. You don't make enough money for all of this. So why not become an entrepreneur?" And I laughed. I'm like, "Are you crazy? You want me to do my own business?" And they're like, "Honestly, just try it. Just try it." Well, there was a time where they had all gone snowboarding in December. I asked to get the month off, well, a week off in that month for it. And they flat out were like, "You'll never be able to take December off. It's one of our busiest times." Well, being from Massachusetts, my whole family was up there. So you mean to tell me I was never coming home for Christmas? Like,
Right.
so finally, I one day just said, "I'm done. I don't care." I had 300 in my savings, and I don't think that I've mentioned this. It was right in the beginning of the pandemic that I had really started to kind of think about leaving on top of us moving, and I was like, all right, well, I'm going for it. And you and I started to meet, and at first I'm like, what am I thinking? Like, I'm trying to meet with people and do work on an hour lunch break. Like, this is crazy. And the more that I did it, the more I fell in love and realized, okay, this is something I could do.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And I want to reflect back some points and, kind of pick them out because, what happens for a lot of people is they are in these jobs and someone does say, oh, you can't take this time off. And they kind of just like bitch and complain about the job. And like, that's the end of it. Or then they try to find just another job and usually end up doing the same thing. And sometimes I really do think people have trouble getting that you really can be in control of your time and your income. It's purely the belief that you're able to. And so there are those moments that they build, and I'm so happy that you were able to have that moment where it's just like, why am I settling for all these different things when it's not actually even what I want to be doing? There's a difference between having something that you want and settling for like what's available right now versus being in a place you don't want to be, doing stuff you don't want to do, and settling for stuff you don't even want. And so the fact that you were able to have the courage to say, one, this isn't okay, and two, I'm going to find a way, is amazing because most people focus on the how, and you don't know the how until looking back, until you're moving through the process. It's having that deciding and like defining factor that you choose that you aren't going to settle anymore. And our time is finite. Like, how long can we be doing stuff that we don't want to be doing? Surprisingly, people are able to do that for a long time. And so I'm glad that you were able to find out, earlier what it is that you really wanted, or at least didn't want. What was it? So did you start meeting on those hour breaks when you were at work, and like how did you coordinate that, or how did that work? Because people might be wondering, like, how do I even coordinate the hour? Or maybe they're in one of those things where they're lunch break shifts and they're trying to figure that out. Like, how did you start to set yourself up for more of the path that you wanted once you decided, like, this is not for me?
I think for me, I got extremely lucky just because with my job, I was able to say, hey, I'm going for lunch and leave.
Yeah.
And so for me, if you and I messaged, hey, can you do noon this day? There were times, I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat. There were times where I'd have to text you or other people and be like, I'm so sorry, I can't escape. And it's difficult to send those text messages because one, you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm letting somebody down. But also, you're so excited to get something else moving that when you're not able to fulfill it, you're like, oh man. But it became easier. And each time that we met, it's kind of like, okay, here's the situation. I'm in my car. It is what it is. And, on top of it, you have to work after work. As much as people are like, well, I've clocked out of my 9 to 5. I'm done. I don't have to worry. You do have to keep going. It's difficult in the beginning. You have to be willing to work 7 o'clock at night, getting things done. But in the end, it's worth it. I mean, we can take off whenever we want right now and go do whatever we want. And it took years, but I'm here.
Yeah. Yeah. That in a sense that overworking is temporary to actually create the work that you want.
Yeah. And I mean, and I'll give credit to you on this one. I, it's amazing to start off with somebody who not only worked with me, but is a business coach, because you and I had many heart to hearts of, all right, Ash, like, I understand that you're tired and things like that, but we have work to do. And if you're going to work with me, we got to keep it going.
Right.
And you were able to kind of really help me move that train along and show me this is the best way to do it. This is what you should be doing. So honestly, if there's any suggestion that I can give to somebody, it's even working that 9 to 5, still get somebody to kind of truck you along, because it comes in handy to have somebody.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you sharing that. And so it sounds like you started to set those up. And I think the virtual assisting, I think, is amazing because sometimes people are looking for something to do, but they don't necessarily know what to do.
Mhm.
And how would you describe virtual assisting to somebody? I mean, I would describe it as there's tasks that um, they'd like someone else to do or automate, and you get to go in there and do them and help that person. That, I mean, that's the way that I think of it. How would you describe it to someone?
I think that's definitely hitting the nail on the head. For me, it's very much that admin stuff, and it's actually something that once in a while I still offer because I love doing it. It's uh, basically going in and to see a business get streamlined. You're going in, say somebody has 60 Zoom recordings that they just don't know what to do with you get to go in and organize all of these things, and at the end of the day, have somebody say, "Oh, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it." You know, I wore many hats. For me, one part of social media, I had a therapist hire me that I still work with now for social media, and I was doing her phone calls for her for intake people. Like, it's definitely, you learn a lot of things. I organized forms. I started working on people's social media. So you wear many hats, but at the end of the day, I do find virtual assisting very fulfilling.
Yeah, and I like that you use the word admin, because that's really what it is online. There's an element where people are running businesses, and there's just a certain amount of tasks, and to hire someone for that, if someone is listening to this and maybe they're thinking, hey, how could I be a virtual assistant, or what's something that I could do? Essentially, you just want to come from a place of service and understand and speak with someone like, hey, what are the things you do? What are you working on? What could you use help or support with? And they're going to have a whole list of things. Some people are the organized type, right? Like yourself, who's able to see how to run with things and organize it. And then some people are also a bit creative, but then, let's say someone's listening to this who is super creative and they feel trapped in a job. Maybe they design or they do photo editing or different things like that. People still need those services, and so you can help them with the creative things that they might not be skilled at or might not have the bandwidth with. So that's just the way that I'm kind of thinking that, or thinking of that. And so you started setting up these meetings during your lunch. And how long did that last for? Or how long was it before you made the leap?
So mine's a little bit potentially more complicated, I guess. So we had started working together, and within a couple months, I already decided I'm done. I'm leaving. I'm gonna try this out. And then the pandemic hit, and I knew in my heart, trying to leave a job like that I knew so badly they needed somebody to stay on. I couldn't bring myself to do it. I loved who I worked with. It was just literally the job that wasn't my favorite. And so
Mhm.
I ended up staying on, I think it was 7 months. And it was very difficult because I was so ready to go, but at the same time, just couldn't bring myself to do it. Um, but at the same time, once I did do it, it was amazing. So, all in all, I think it took about 7 months for me to leave. I would have liked for it to be sooner, but pandemics happen.
Yeah,
Um,
as we
but
now know.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, for me, it was that 7 months. But I'll tell you, once I knew for sure I set a date, it was the most terrifying thing in the world because I'd walk into work with people that I really enjoyed and look at them and be like, yeah, have a great day. Oh, I'm only here for 1 week and you don't know it. Like, so
Right.
having to have that 2 week notice conversation is extremely difficult. But once I left, I cried. Like, I called my boyfriend and I cried and I was like, I just did it. I put in my 2 weeks. I can't believe this just happened. And the amount of weight taken off of my shoulders was incredible. So, as scary as it is, it's also the most thrilling, exciting thing you can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you even messaged me when you did that.
I did.
And it is a huge weight lifted, because when you're working a job, especially one that you don't like, not only are you carrying around your own work, you're connected to others, you're connected to the business, and so much of it is taking up your time and your day. And so to finally set yourself up to be done with that, even energetically, is huge on the nervous system. And how much did you say you had saved up before you left?
$300.
Yeah, 300 bucks.
Yep.
Um, Because, and the reason why I like to bring this up is because I remember when I first started looking, or there were people that were entrepreneurs that I was asking, they'd say, oh, you need to have 6 months, or you need to have a year's savings and security in order to do that. And that felt impossible to me. And I like to go by just the idea that where there's a will, there's a way. And I would say, instead of thinking you need to have so much saved, think of setting yourself up for success. Are you creating conversations to create more clients? Do you have some type of service that people have paid for a couple times? Do you have a place that you can sleep? Have you talked to your significant other about how to manage finances in case stuff doesn't come in for a while? Those are the things that I actually think are most important, because I would never want anyone to feel stuck in a job forever and ever because they weren't able to save up enough money. Like, there's plenty of jobs. And if your job is so horrible, maybe you just need a better job. I quit the same job 5 times. Fifth time was the last time. And there's also the option of leaving the job and just going to something else part-time to at least free up more days or more time. And so there's lots of different options if people just simply give it the effort and give it the time. And a lot of times people think once you give that 2 weeks or once you make the leap, then that's it. And it's really just the beginning. And so could you tell us about, what that was like for you after giving that 2 weeks and really carving out this new path?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether I did it the best way, to be honest with you, because I took on a little bit more, in a sense of, I put in my 2 weeks. On my last day of my job, we moved. So we moved to a bigger space. And on top of it, I was like, all right, I'm doing this. I'm going for it. And here we go. But I really like that you touched upon that you can always go part-time and things like that, because for me, I babysat. I remember even working on your stuff as a little one that I was watching was sleeping. And so I did that a couple times a week just to keep my head above, pay my bills. But at the same time, I went from working at 9 to 5 to, babysitting 4 times a week, or
Yeah.
4 hours a week, I should say. So it was enough to kind of help keep my head above water, but I was able to actually start going onto Facebook, telling people what I did. And I remember posting my first Instagram post of, hey, I just opened up. And thankfully I got really lucky. And the best thing that I can tell people is, even in your 9 to 5, start talking to family members about what you're planning on doing. Don't talk about it at work, but even with your family, start discussing, because I ended up having 3 clients lined up as soon as I pretty much left my 9 to 5 that were family members and friends that all actually needed my services, and they didn't even realize they did. Half my friends didn't even know what a VA was until I was like, let me fill you in. And all of a sudden they're all like, oh, well, we could actually use you. So from there, it started to grow. I don't know if you're recall this, but we actually ended up hitting a slump. So I think I was probably 4 months into doing this full time. We had a friend pass away, and he was
Mhm.
one of my closest friends. He was the one that encouraged me to do business. And I thank God every day that I got put into the situation that I did, because I worked every single day while still trying to handle my boyfriend's emotions, everything that was going on. And it was the most difficult time of my life, but it also made me stronger. And I mean, if I was in my 9 to 5, I would not have been able to be there for him or our friends or anything compared to what I was. And once that happened, it's kind of one of those things of, all right, get back on that horse and you got to keep going. And so
Yeah.
even if you hit a wall, some hardships, you work for yourself now. You don't have a choice. Wake up and get on that laptop because you have to, but it's a good have to.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Especially if they're, enjoy it or looking forward to it. And, I really love how you touched on that, on being able to share what you do and what you're up to. Because in my experience, when I was in the job, I felt like I couldn't necessarily do that, or I couldn't be on like full blast of all the things that I'm up to or who I'm working with. And some of the stuff that I believed I knew was at odds with actually the place that I worked, and people would look down on that. And it's so freeing to actually operate as you are 100% of the time, 100% authentically, and not have to worry about, are you going to get fired or not? Are you going to get written up? Are they going to say something? Are they going to say you can't be operating a business if you're job? So there's a lot of different things there that I love that you touched on, because it is so freeing to really create the life that you want to be living, and not the life that you think you have to. And so, and you're right. During that slump that you spoke about, there's an element where there are things that do come up, right? And you are managing your own day, you're managing your own emotions. You can't just say, hey, I'm taking a day off. You actually get to choose how you want to do things, and there will always be challenges that are coming up through life, but at least you get to operate it how you want to operate it.
Yeah, I mean, especially, just kind of talking about back then, we thought that it was so amazing that we were going from a 500 square foot apartment to an 800. Like, we were like, whoa, this is amazing. To now, we are actually in the process of moving. I don't even think I've had this opportunity to share with you. We just bought a home.
Oh,
And
amazing. Congrats.
thanks. And the part of all of that is, though, I have hustled. Like, this is not something that, like you said, you can't just be like, you know what, I'm not feeling it today, I'd rather not work. You have the freedom to say, hey, I'm taking a vacation, but I don't have to ask for these days off. However, my laptop goes with me a good amount of my vacations and stuff, because I'm constantly like, well, let me at least just check in and make sure things are the way that they're supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
You get to be your own boss, but with that is you actually have to be a boss. And it can, have its ups and downs, but at the end of the day, like I said, we're moving into our own home, and we did not see that happening for another 5 years easily. But if you keep going, you can accomplish anything that you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And they get to set it up how they want. I kind of think, because I think people are so used to the 9 to 5 environment, which totally goes beyond even a 9 to 5. Like, they're sending you home with work and different things, or you have to have stuff on your mind, or they're calling you in for other things. And the way I've set up my business is, I'll do work Monday and Tuesday. Wednesday, nothing goes on the calendar. I can do stuff if I want, or I might have it be a free day. And then I work Thursday, Friday. And so it, like you talked about, like, you get to choose those times. You get to choose when it happens. And there will always be work. So it's like setting up these boundaries and finding your own flow, your own schedule that you actually like. Which I actually think is human nature. Like, we want to grow, we want to make progress, we actually do want to do work. We don't want to feel stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And so congrats to you on, hustling and achieving that, and, purchasing that house. That's awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of that same way. So for me, my schedule's a little different. I work a lot Monday through Wednesday. Thursday, I actually usually take a half day. And then Fridays, I try really hard to take off. There's just some things that pop up. But honestly, I mean, I feel like doing that half day on Thursday is enough for me to be like, cool, my house is clean. I feel good. I'm actually okay to sit down on my laptop. Or there's days where, I live in Florida. It's beautiful out. Hey, Eric, let's cut out at noon and let's go to the beach.
Right.
So it is definitely that even flow of, get your work done, but then go have fun.
Definitely. And so, in terms of people setting themselves up for success, right? Like, let's say they find the thing, they start meeting with people, whether it's during their lunch. And it doesn't have to take up all these times, but the point is to start doing it and, validate what they're doing, or at least start making an income to prove it, and then start doing more of it. And then let's say they do that. Let's say they give that 2 weeks, they reach those next steps, and they have more of like these open days, and they get to structure their days how they want. I feel like making the leap, there's this element where all of a sudden there's all this time available now. How did you do anything to start filling the time? or how did you start thinking of it? Because I see online there's like the entrepreneurs that are like, you got to hustle like every minute of the day, and that's totally not my vibe. And so I'm just curious how you thought of it during that time.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, it was kind of that I need to hustle. This another thing that you may not remember. We were supposed to meet, and I had actually gotten into a car accident, and I was
Oh
still,
yeah.
and I was still like, James, I promise you, like as soon as I get home, once I'm back, let's meet. And you're like, are you crazy? Like, no, we're not meeting. Take the time for you. And that was actually the turning point for me of saying, hold on, my whole entire life can't be this business. I have stacks of laundry piled up, things like that. If you hustle until you can't think anymore, you are going to hit a wall. You're going to hit burnout.
Mhm.
And I think that car accident in a way was kind of hitting my wall, literally,
Yeah.
because for me it was like, wait a minute, I'm rushing to do stuff, I'm doing 10 different things, and look what ended up happening. I didn't even get to meet my client. So instead, it caused me to slow down. In the mornings, I think that this is actually something that you and I have talked about, is I take at least an hour and a half from when I wake up to have a cup of coffee, look through Facebook or whatever I want to do, fold laundry, put it away, and then I get to work. I take the time even in the evenings. Eric and I go for a walk. We try to at least every other night. It's so important to, like you said, not hustle until you can't stop anymore. Be organized with it. I bought a planner and I literally broke it down into hours of, okay, this is what I need to do each hour of the day. These are my tasks I need to complete. And at that point, it's like, okay, cool. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm not going to pick tomorrow's stuff and start doing those. I'm going to break away.
Yeah.
So,
I think that's an amazing way to look at it. And whoever might be listening, set it up for however you feel and will help you make progress. So for me, I'm more of like a checklist type, because otherwise, like you said, I can just keep hustling and keep doing something until I'm completely tired. And so for me, I had to say, like, you know what, if I connect with 3 to 5 people today, or have 3 to 5 conversations, even if it's not specifically a sales conversation, but I'm just wanting to be of service and see how I can help someone, I've kind of like reached my benchmark, and I can move on to the next thing. And just those little steps, they continue to pay off. Not everyone becomes a client, but it feels good being of service, and it starts to compound and it starts to add up. And so it sounds like for you, you started to structure how you wanted your days, and that started to build. And so what did the journey look like, right? Because I feel like people sometimes hope that they're going to pick the one thing that they're going to be doing for the rest of their life. And I don't know where any of us were sold that, but I've found that none of us will do the same thing for the rest of our lives. Um, and so it's just choosing the thing that aligns most right now, and being open to stepping into whatever the next thing is. Um, for you, how did things start to evolve? It sounds like you started to take on clients, and then things started to shift in terms of what interested you. Yeah, talk a little more about that.
yeah, for me, it was definitely, I loved being a VA. Like I said before, having those admin tasks and being able to check them off really felt good for me. I could just tell, not that I wanted a little bit more flexibility, but I wanted something a little bit more creative, I guess is a good way to put it. So for me, I really love creating content. I enjoy it for myself, for others. I'm quick and fast at it. And so I kept going back and forth to, oh, well, I mean, I love doing these and I love the admin tasks, but I really just want something that's going to feel good when it comes to creation. And I started to really dive into courses for it and figure out if it's something that I wanted to do. And I signed on my first client and I was like, you know what? I'm going to keep going with this. I like doing this. Okay. And it really is all about following your heart, because if you're doing something that, great, you're an entrepreneur, but it's something that you don't feel good about, you can't stand, you cannot sell a product you don't like. You
Hmm.
cannot be successful in that. And so for me, it was, I really love the admin stuff, but I could just tell that it was kind of time to up myself. And it was even scary doing that. I kept some of my clients on for VA tasks, but then I slowly started to say, well, I also do social media if you need it. And just started to kind of really evolve into that. And the cool part about it is now I work with females in regards to creating confidence on social media. So I do all of the content creation that I do, but I meet with my clients that are females, and I hype them up and I get excited about it. And so I think that that's the best thing that you can do, is just have people start getting excited about what you do, and you are excited about what you do, and it's a game changer. So long story short, I'm
Yeah.
happy with where I'm at, that's for sure.
Yep. And, I think that's really wonderful because a lot of times people are trying to choose like a niche, or they're trying to find the one specific thing. And then someone says, well, what did you do? And they're like, I don't know, or they have trouble explaining it. And so I think, my advice is just keep things really simple. Keep it on a conversation about them and what they do. And then if there's areas that you notice you can help them, offer to help them. Let them know where you can help them, because they aren't going to be a mind reader. And even if you say like, oh, this is what I help people with, you can still branch off. You're a multi-talented, multi-skilled person, and nobody is going to follow up like a week or a year or whatever later and go, hey, you told me you did this. What happened? Nobody's hunting you down, following every little word that you say. So just, I think, for whoever might be listening, just do your best to be sincere, to be of service, and people feel that, and produce good work. Only do what you actually believe you can do. And if you only believe you can do part of something, be honest of what that part is. And I think you've done amazing at that, Ashley, because you have amazing conversations with people. You talk about, just the different ways that you can be of service. And yeah, I think you come from a really creative and collaborative space, which is what anyone wants. And I think you creating that in your journey is just like an amazing testament of what's possible.
Sorry, there's a cat. I told you they'd pop
It's
up.
all good.
But exactly, thank you for that. But that's also, I couldn't agree more. I mean, have conversations with people. For anybody that's listening, I think that that's the most important thing that you can do. Is there's been plenty of times where I've spoken to people who are literally looking for lead generators of, oh, are you willing to message people? Well, instead, hey, I'm more than happy to create your content for you. And that way we can create SEO stuff that's going to direct you. And all of a sudden they're like, you know what? I didn't even think of that. And so, yes, we're talking about one specific thing, but now all of a sudden, well, I'm not great at that, but I'm happy to do this for you. And so it is definitely have those conversations. Don't be afraid to talk with people about it. And it makes a big difference.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'd say be patient with yourself. I know for me, the idea of even reaching out to people or sharing what I did or having a conversation, I would reach out to like one person a week, because there was so much like emotion behind the message or connection that I was sending, that something was being healed in that process. Now it's much easier. But I think, whoever's listening, just be honor your pace of where you're at in your journey, and just keep moving forward, and it'll be amazing progress. Do you have any last words of wisdom for people, or any recommendations, or if there's something that I missed, let me know. We can keep going too.
We better be careful. I think you and I can just keep going for a long time,
It's
especially
true.
I did ramble. Let's be real. I think really just wrapping it up with exactly what you said, be patient. I mean, I was texting you right before this saying, oh, I'm nervous. Like, oh man, we're going live. What do I do? And so I think that it's just dive right into that growth. If you wait for the perfect opportunity, it is never going to show up. Like I said, I mean, we had about 8 different things going on when I decided to leave my job, and I'm grateful. And that's just be patient with yourself and keep going. And that's the best thing that you can do.
Cool. Thank you. And so if someone listened in partway through, where's the website where they can find you and your work and more about you?
Yeah, it's thecairacreative.com. So it's my last name and creative.com.
Awesome. And for anyone that wants more conversations like this, or you're looking for coaching or anything like that, you can find me at my website, jmwightman.com, Wightman. And yeah, there's all different details there. Thank you so much, Ashley. I super appreciate you taking the time to talk today.
Oh, thank you. This was fun. We'll have to do it again.
Yeah, you got it. Bye, everybody.
Bye.